There are often times when people freeze in the middle of a presentation and struggle to find the right words to get out of the situation. It is not an uncommon problem. If you are an inexperienced speaker, you will notice that the right words are not coming, or even worse, that words refuse to come at all. The thought you need to convey is in your mind, but it refuses to take the shape of words. You struggle with your words, and as you do, you lose your train of thought. The situation turns into a mess. The harder you try, the messier the situation becomes, and you just want to get off the stage and bury yourself somewhere, away from everyone's prying eyes. In situations like these, your mind goes into a vicious loop, and it feels like you are getting lost in a whirlpool of confusion, from which there is no escape. You start getting embarrassed. Sweat beads form on your forehead, and before you know it, you are perspiring. How do you get out of this situation, let alone come out unscathed? There are several approaches to this problem, but you will do better when you practice. It is not uncommon for even seasoned professionals or experienced politicians to fumble in the middle of a speech. It could be a result of momentary distraction that interrupts their chain of thought. However, experienced speakers have no difficulty navigating their way out of this difficult situation. Some do it so well that their speech is much better because of their fumble than it might have been without it. How do you get to that stage? One of the best ways to come out of this situation is to block your mind and your thoughts for a couple of seconds. It is difficult, but you will get it with practice. Suppose during a presentation, you get stuck at a particular slide and are at a loss for words. Rather than struggle with this slide, simply block your mind off for a moment. When you block your mind, you will not think of the audience watching you. And when you don't think about the audience, you will stop feeling embarrassed. Not giving in to embarrassment will give you a much-needed breather. The few seconds of reprieve you get by blocking your mind will help you recharge your batteries. Once you begin to exercise your mind again, you can organize your train of thought. If you are still stuck with what you want to say, just move on to the next slide. You can do this by saying something like, "We will come back to this slide later." Immediately jump to the next slide, and as you work through your presentation, you can organize your thoughts about what you wanted to say about the slide where you got distracted. Once you feel you remember what you wanted to say about the slide where you got stuck, you can simply jump around by saying something like, "By the way, let us go back to that slide," and continue. This way, you will deliver a good presentation and come out unscathed. Of course, the above scenario is very difficult to implement during a live presentation if you are not prepared for this eventuality. So how do you practice for such a situation? Well, when you practice, stop yourself midway through the session. Pretend you have forgotten what you want to say. Jump around in your slides and continue to practice. As you keep doing this, you will notice that even if you interrupt yourself, you can navigate out of the situation without much difficulty. Another way to practice coming out of such a situation is to be equipped with an arsenal of jokes or catchy phrases that will come in handy. As you prepare your presentation, also plan a few phrases and jokes that you may not use during the presentation if everything goes according to plan. Just keep these phrases in your mind during your presentation, but do not use them. During your practice, intersperse your presentation with these jokes or phrases at random intervals. Mind you, you are using these jokes and phrases only during practice, and you do not intend to use them during your actual presentation unless it becomes absolutely essential. During your practice, simulate different types of interruptions to your speech and work out a way to come out of the situation. This may sound silly to you, for you might think, if I freeze during my presentation, will I be able to recollect these jokes or catchy phrases? This is a valid question, but as I mentioned at the beginning of this topic, you need to work hard to avoid having to face ticklish situations during a presentation. As you practice and simulate different scenarios during your practice, you will notice your confidence improve dramatically. When you are confident about your abilities, you will find a way to extricate yourself from any difficult situation.